From the farms of Delaware, this is the Talkin' Yu-Gi-Oh! Show. Hello, everyone. I am your host, Dylan, and welcome back. It's been about a month since we have done the Talking Yu-Gi-Oh! Show. But what I wanted to talk about in our main segment today, before we get to kind of the fun stuff and before we bring in the Maestro and Dredger, is just kind of the weird state of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime and card game world that we are in right now. I don't know how many of you guys checked out TGS Anime's recent video. I believe he uploaded it on Tuesday. Really, really good watch. He's a guy that I, can't say enough positives about. Highly recommend that you check it out. And, he kind of gave his thoughts on it. And yeah, I just want to kind of talk about how there's a lot of segments of the fandom, and that's been one of my favorite things about Yu-Gi-Oh! You have the anime segment, you have the TCG segment, the OCG segment, the people that go to locals, the people that play Duel Links, the people that play Master Duel. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is really a mishmash of so many great sectors that all come together for their love sometimes their love of one amazing product, and that, of course, is Yu-Gi-Oh! There's been a crazy amount of anime. There's been an awesome amount of games. Duel Links and Master Duel have been around for quite some time now. But obviously, things are kind of weird right now. I'm sure a lot of people have seen what's been going on with Master Duel in terms of player base, what's been going on with Duel Links in terms of player base. And of course, it goes without saying, especially if you're in this corner of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, we do not have an anime, and we have no idea if we are going to be getting an anime for the first time since Yu-Gi-Oh! Was around. And there was something that TGS Anime said in his video that I'm going to play for you guys that I thought was really, really interesting. And it's about a 30-second clip I want to play for you guys, and then we're gonna discuss it.
Overall, my thoughts on the state of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. Rush Duel is fine. It is more for a younger audience. It seems to be doing well, so that's fine. We don't have Rush Duels in the TCG, unfortunately, I don't think. So, unfortunately, we don't have that. But, yeah, I would like to see a new Master Duel series. I've never felt more detached from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime sphere, because we just haven't had anything. So, yeah, I'd like to see something. Whether that be a remake of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters with modern-day cards and, like, a complete revamp, or a brand new series. I'd take anything.
I've never felt more detached from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime sphere. Now, TGS talks for about 7 minutes in regards to, like, how he feels about the anime. Highly recommend it. And outside of the fact that he didn't watch Rush, it wasn't for him, and that's totally fine. Outside of that fact, because obviously I liked Rush, I pretty much agree with everything he said. I pretty much agree with everything he said. And that comment resonated so deeply within me. And I don't think it's a good sign when the most popular Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime content creator, which is TGS Anime bar none, is saying that he has never felt more disconnected and detached from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime sphere. And think about it. If you're someone who did not check out Rush because you are not, like, a big fan of Rush, didn't appeal to you, whatever the reason was, you have not had a Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime in over 6 years. 6 years ago, Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains came to an end, and we have never had a main format anime since then. And by the way, while there are a lot of people that, watch me, and there's a lot of people that support me that watch Rush, there's also plenty of people that are like TGS Anime and just said, hey, you know what? I'm not into Rush. It's not for me. I want to watch a show of a game where I can actually play the game. It doesn't look appealing. Whatever the reason is, right? There's so many reasons. Whatever the reason is. But as someone who's watched the Rush shows, I fully agree with that quote. I fully agree with that quote. And think about how crazy that is, right? We are two Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime content creators. Now, he's, of course, much, much bigger than I am. But we're two, I would say pretty, well, he's very big. I would say I'm decently big in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime space. Again, I don't want to get arrogant or anything like that. But I share these sentiments so much because I feel like I am just not being seen as a fan of this franchise. And I'm sure there are so many people that are watching at home that don't make content, that watch, that lurk, that feel probably the same way as I do probably feel the same way as TGS Anime does. You know, again, I'm not saying if they don't want to do a new show, that's fine. It's the element of, again, keeping us in the dark, not giving us an update. And TGS Anime said at the end, you know, I'm not going to replay it, but he said at the end right there, I would take anything at this point. How many times have you heard me say that in the last 9 months? I have said that probably 5,000 times. That is how desperate we Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime fans are for anything on the anime side of things. And so the anime side is in a really, really tough spot. And I think there are a lot of people, not just me, not just TGS Anime, and I loved hearing it from TGS Anime because, again, if your most popular content creator in a sector is saying they've never felt more detached from that sector, I think there's an issue. I think there's an issue, and I think there's something that should be said there. You know, Yu-Gi-Oh's got a lot of sectors, right? Yu-Gi-Oh has a lot of sectors. There's a lot of things with Yu-Gi-Oh. I know there's going to be some people that are going to see this and be like, oh boy, because this has been talked about, right? I mean, this has been talked about wherever you are. These are the Master Duel Steam charts. But I think it's important to talk about. Now, this is not, I'm not going to be crazy and be like, oh, you know, if there was an anime, these numbers would be higher. There's other issues regarding Master Duel. The biggest issue right now is the format. A lot of people are just totally rejecting the Malice format. But like, besides February, actually, we'll just say since February, every single month has lost a share of players. And in the last 30 days, we are only at 12,070 players, when no month prior to the year 2025 was below 17,000 players, or 16,000 players, excuse me. That is a pretty massive drop-off in player base. And so Master Duel's got a little bit of an issue going on, where outside of 1 month, which was February, where I believe Max C got hit in February, so that could have been a reason why. I believe Blue Eyes there. That could have been a reason why. But the numbers speak for themselves. One of my favorite quotes, man. The data never lies. And it doesn't. And right now, players are down. They are rejecting this format in Master Duel. They are just not loving it. So let's look at the other big game. Right? Let's look at the other big game, which is Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links has been featuring a steady decline ever since Master Duel came out. And I know you have a little bit of green at the top, but if you look at the last 4 months of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, they are the lowest 4 months in regards to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links that Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links has ever had in terms of average player base. So right now, Duel Links is basically at an all-time low in terms of players. Master Duel is at an all-time low in terms of players. And of course, we don't have a Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. So we are in a very strange position right now when it comes to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise as a whole. And I want to show you guys something that absolutely blew my mind. And we call this in the industry, by the way, market cannibalization. Look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links' numbers on the right chart about halfway up. 9,000, 9,000, 8,000, couple of 10,000s in there. Look at February 22 when Master Duel came out. Master Duel, and I don't know if we've ever really looked at it this deeply on the channel. Master Duel decimated, which is no secret, decimated Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. And I don't think we've ever seen a more stark market cannibalization example than this. And frankly, since Master Duel has been released, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links has never regained the market share that they once had pre-Master Duel. And for those wondering what market cannibalization is, it is a real term. I'm not making it up. I have a bachelor's in marketing, so I know a couple of things. A drop in sales and demand for a product when the company replaces it with a new one. In layman's terms, product A exists, the same company releases product B, and product B takes a large market share from product A. And that's exactly what's happened here. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links has had 4 straight months. We'll pull it up again, the big chart. 4 straight months below 1,800, when prior to June, they never had a single month that low. In fact, look at 2024. A lot of 3,000s, a lot of 2,000s, and now we're whittling away into the 1,700s. And we'll see if the DM world gives Duel Links a big boost. And by the way, there's a lot of things, a lot of reasons as to why Duel Links is where it's at. I think one of the biggest is the lack of really cool crossover events that Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links has the potential to have. Like, I'm sorry, if you had an event where Yusei and Jaden got together and had to take on some sort of threat, and they did a little bit of a storyline on that, you're telling me people wouldn't go back to the game to check out that event? Of course they would. Of course they would. And Konami loves foreshadowing and then just never following up on it. And I didn't want to get into this, but I'm going to very briefly. November 2023, the Ghost Girl event. I've had people say to me, it wasn't foreshadowing. Of course it was foreshadowing. They show all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns characters seeing all of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Protagonists. 2 years later, in Akira's Eyes, an event later, absolutely nothing. And I genuinely think people have kind of lost trust a little bit in it. I really do. I think that stuff annoys people more than other people think. It certainly has annoyed me. Now, I'll admit, I'm still playing Duel Links every day. But, like, there is so much potential for them to do fun, creative events in this wonderful world of Duel Links that they've created. And they tease it, and they hint it, and they foreshadow it. And if you don't think they were foreshadowing at the end of that Ghost Girl event, stop it. Because you're wrong. You're just wrong, and you're smarter than that. It's one thing to say, well, I thought that they were foreshadowing. I just didn't think they'd follow up on it. That's a fair take. And you know what? If that was your take, they're right. But of course, they were foreshadowing something big in that event. And then, of course, just didn't do anything with it. Look up what foreshadowing means. It means to allude to something in the future. It was blatant foreshadowing. And they're just not going to follow up on it. So, Duel Links, all that to say, Duel Links is at an all-time low right now, player base-wise, over the last 4 months. Master Duel is at an all-time low in terms of player base, last 30-day average. And the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, you've got the biggest Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime YouTuber in the world saying they've never felt more detached from the anime sphere. And I feel similarly. So, Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, man, it's in a weird state. I feel like it's almost kind of lost its identity. Man, I just think that, and you know what? This was actually one other thing, and I wanted to end the monologue here before we bring in the guys. This was a comment that I loved. on TGS Anime's video. It's refreshing to hear a good faith casual player perspective. I also think people underestimate the influence of the anime. A new anime in the style of Duel Monsters, GX, or 5Ds with modern archetypes could be really good for this game's popularity. And you know what, George? I fully agree. We're going to bring on two men. What do you make of all this, man? What do you make of the opening?
You were going off for a minute, and I love that. I love when you go off and you get engaged and and it's always fun to watch you come out with some fire, because sometimes I feel like you don't have that in you, and then you pull it out on me, and I love it. So love the monologue. I think you bring up a lot of good points. Both they're two, you'd argue their two biggest games are down right now. Now again, is that because there's no anime? Is that because of other reasons? Like, it's hard to really well, it's not that hard. I think it's pretty right there. But that being said, yeah, I think this is like a 2 feet in bounds. You made a good catch. We're making some ground on what's going on. Yeah, as someone who plays the games, I haven't even played them in, oh God, I don't know.
I haven't played Master Duel in a couple weeks. Yeah, since my 24-hour stream 2 weeks ago, I haven't touched Master Duel.
Yeah, it's just not something that Again, I'm clearly not a competitive player. I'll be very upfront with that. But like to not even be able to play my decks that are at least, I would argue, should be semi-entertaining competitive to play. If I don't have a crazy board on turn one, and even if I do, it doesn't matter. That you can play through it with these decks, and it's just not a fun time. The meta that Master Duel's become is just not fun. You're not getting anything from an anime. A lot of people are disappointed in Animation Chronicle, and I can understand why. But yeah, it's tough out there right now. But I think you hit the nail right on the head, and hopefully they're listening and maybe they're gonna make some changes because this, that's the hope.
Well, that that is the hope. It's one thing, right? If every sector of Yu-Gi-Oh was flying and doing really well, and it was like the anime's over, it is what it is. But hey, Master Duel has had a great spike, or at least staying consistent where it was with their player base. Duel Links is staying consistent. I mean, you're looking at their two biggest Yu-Gi-Oh related games, like digital games, of course, we're not counting the physical card game, and they are both the opposite is going on. So, right, to your point, Dredge, I mean, maybe this is something that needed to happen in order for them to be like, okay, we got to make some big changes here. Nick T, what do you make of all of it, man?
I mean, I think your one statement said it pretty concisely. Well, not necessarily Konami, but the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise right now is suffering from like an identity crisis. They are struggling with identity in a myriad ways, and I have to say, to the point of like, I hope they're listening. At the end of the day, Master Duel and all of it, but especially Master Duel and Duel Links as games are products. They have to be, they have to be listening, because if a product of mine, if from a stock perspective, let's say, what was it? You said Duel Links or Master Duel went from like 16,000 to 12,000 players,
yes.
active players.
Yes.
If I had a stock that dropped 25%, I would be extremely concerned.
Yeah.
That's a 25% drop. If for a product, if my product's user base is losing 25% of its player base, that's extremely concerning. Something has to change. It can't just be like, put your head in the sand, the players are going to get what we give them. No, like that's not going to work. This game will fail if it continues down that trajectory. And not just the game, then following all of that, the IP will follow that trajectory. Having no anime, having two games that are on a downward trend is not good for an IP. I have felt extremely disconnected, and I can't imagine. I have to imagine that many people are feeling extremely disconnected from Yu-Gi-Oh! In that regard.
It feels rough right now to be a Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan, especially if you're on the anime and digital side. You just watched one of the clips from my Talking Yu-Gi-Oh! Show, which airs every other Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you guys so much for your support. Please leave all your thoughts down below. Long live Yu-Gi-Oh! And I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys.